You know what surprises most people? They assume growing fruit at home requires a big backyard, wide garden beds, or a lot of land. But that simply is not true. Some of the most productive fruit plants can thrive in containers, and a small balcony patio or sunny corner can be enough to harvest more fresh fruit than you expect. In this video, we are going through 10 incredible fruit trees and fruiting plants that grow beautifully in pots and tight spaces. These are not weak substitutes for real backyard trees either. Many of them can produce generous harvests, save you a significant amount of money over time, and give you fresher, better-tasting fruit than what you usually find at the store. And make sure you stay all the way to the end because the final bonus tip can dramatically improve the performance of every single container fruit plant on this list. If you enjoy practical, budget-friendly ways to grow more food at home, this topic is going to be a game changer. Container fruit growing gives you flexibility, control, and productivity without demanding a large property. So let's jump right into the countdown. Number 10. Pomegranates. Starting the list at number 10, pomegranates are one of the toughest and most underrated fruit trees for container growing. Dwarf varieties such as Nana or State Fair are especially well suited for pots because they naturally have a more compact root system than many other fruit trees. Instead of constantly trying to spread far and wide, they adapt well to a container environment. A 15 to 20 gallon pot is usually enough to keep a dwarf pomegranate happy, and that means you do not need to invest in anything fancy. Even a large food-safe bucket can work well if it has proper drainage. Once the tree is established, it can still produce a very satisfying harvest of rich red fruit with the same sweet tart flavor people love from full-sized trees. Another reason pomegranates deserve a place on this list is resilience. They handle dry conditions better than many other fruit trees, so if you are busy or still learning how to manage watering, they are much more forgiving. For beginners, that makes pomegranates an excellent choice: productive, durable, compact, and surprisingly easy to manage. Number 9. The fig that changes everything. Figs are where container gardening starts to get really interesting. Most people don't realize this, but fig trees actually prefer being slightly root-bound. In other words, growing them in a container doesn't limit them, it gives them exactly the environment they thrive in. When a fig tree's roots are slightly restricted, it shifts its energy toward fruit production instead of excessive growth. That means earlier harvests and often more fruit. Varieties like Petite Negra or Chicago Hardy are especially reliable in pots, producing heavily even in compact spaces. And here's the part that surprises most growers: figs produce fruit on new growth. So even if your tree gets damaged or dies back during winter in colder climates, it can regrow and still produce fruit in the same season. That level of resilience is rare among fruit trees. A single healthy fig tree in a container can yield an impressive harvest, sometimes dozens, even over 100 fruits in a good season. And the flavor completely different from store-bought figs. Fresh, soft, intensely sweet, it's like tasting the fruit the way it was meant to be. Here's a simple trick to take it even further during fruiting season: let the soil dry slightly between watering. That mild stress concentrates sugars in the fruit, making your figs taste richer and sweeter. It's a small adjustment with a big payoff. Number 8. Blueberries. That actually work. Blueberries are one of the most rewarding fruits you can grow in containers, but only if you understand one critical detail: soil acidity. Unlike most plants, blueberries require acidic soil, ideally between pH 4.5 and 5.5. This is exactly why so many people struggle to grow them in the ground. But in a container, you control everything. That changes the game completely. By using the right mix, such as peat moss or soil blends designed for acid-loving plants, you can create the perfect environment with ease. Suddenly, you're not fighting your soil, you're optimizing it. Compact varieties like Top Hat or Peach Sorbet are ideal for small spaces. They stay under 3 feet tall, look beautiful throughout the seasons, and still produce impressive yields. A mature, container-grown blueberry plant can produce several pounds of berries each year. And when you compare that to store prices, especially organic blueberries, the value becomes obvious very quickly. But what really makes blueberries powerful in containers is mobility. You can move them into better sunlight, protect them from late frosts, or adjust their growing conditions anytime you need. That level of control is something traditional gardening simply cannot match. Number 7. The Meyer lemon advantage. Everyone has heard of growing lemons in pots, but Meyer lemons stand out for a reason. They are naturally compact, but more importantly, they are ever-bearing. That means a single tree can have flowers, small fruit, and ripe lemons all at the same time. It's like having a continuous harvest right outside your door. A well-established Meyer lemon tree can produce dozens of lemons each year, and because you're growing it in a container, you have complete control over its environment. If temperatures drop, you can move it indoors. If pests appear, you can isolate and treat the problem quickly. That level of control makes container-grown citrus often easier to maintain than trees planted in the ground. Another common misconception is that citrus trees require expensive fertilizers. In reality, a simple, balanced organic fertilizer works perfectly well. With consistent feeding during the growing season, your tree will stay healthy and productive without high costs. And beyond the harvest, there's something special about growing a lemon tree. When it blooms, the fragrance fills the entire space with a fresh citrus aroma. And when you finally harvest your own lemons, the experience feels completely different from buying them at the store. Number 6. Dwarf peaches. That over-deliver peaches might sound like one of those fruits that require a large backyard, but dwarf varieties completely change that assumption. Trees like Bonanza or El Dorado are specifically bred for compact growth, making them ideal for container gardening. These trees typically stay around 5 to 6 feet tall, which means they are easy to manage, easy to protect, and surprisingly productive. Even better, most dwarf peach trees are self-pollinating, so you only need one tree to get fruit. Now here's what makes container peaches so powerful control. In a traditional garden, peaches can be vulnerable to late frosts, pests, and unpredictable weather. But in a container, you can move the tree, shield it, or even bring it closer to your home when needed. A single healthy dwarf peach tree can produce a generous harvest of full-sized, juicy peaches each season. And the difference in taste is something you have to experience to fully understand. Store-bought peaches are often picked early for transport, but your peaches ripen on the tree, developing full sweetness, aroma, and texture. There's one key technique that makes a huge difference with peaches thinning. When the tree sets fruit, remove about half of the young peaches. It might feel wrong at first, but this allows the remaining fruit to grow larger, sweeter, and healthier, while also preventing the tree from becoming stressed. Number 5. Cherries. Without the ladder. Cherries are often seen as difficult to grow, especially in small spaces, but dwarf cherry varieties completely remove that barrier. Types like Romeo or Juliet are incredibly well suited for container growing and are much more forgiving than traditional sweet cherries. One of the biggest advantages of growing cherries in containers is control over birds. In a full-sized tree, protecting your harvest can be nearly impossible. But with a compact tree on a patio or balcony, you can easily cover it with netting in minutes. And that makes a big difference because cherries are one of the most expensive fruits when they're in season. A mature, container-grown cherry tree can produce a substantial harvest, enough for fresh eating, baking jams, and even freezing for later use. But cherries offer more than just fruit. When they bloom, they transform into a stunning ornamental plant covered in soft pink and white flowers. So even before harvest season, your tree is already adding beauty to your space. Number 4. The apple tree that fits anywhere. Now this is where things get really interesting. Columnar apple trees almost look like something engineered for small spaces. Instead of growing wide and spreading out, they grow straight upward with minimal side branching. That makes them perfect for containers. These trees can reach around 8 to 10 feet tall, but stay very narrow sometimes, just a couple of feet wide. That means you can fit multiple apple trees in a space where a traditional tree would never work. And despite their compact form, they still produce full-sized apples. Not mini-fruit, real, crisp, juicy apples that you can harvest season after season. Another advantage of apples is storage. Unlike many fruits that must be eaten quickly, apples can last for months if stored properly. So your harvest doesn't just give you value for a few weeks, it extends well into the future. And just like the other container trees on this list, maintenance becomes easier. Because the tree is smaller, you can inspect it quickly, catch pest issues early, and take action before problems spread. Number 3. Strawberries. Reimagined. Technically, strawberries aren't trees, but when it comes to productivity in containers, they absolutely deserve a top spot on this list. Strawberries are one of the fastest fruits you can grow. In many cases, they begin producing within just a few months of planting. And if you choose ever-bearing varieties, they don't just give you one harvest, they keep producing continuously from late spring through fall. Now think about that for a second. A single container holding just a handful of strawberry plants can give you fresh fruit almost every day during peak season. That level of output from such a small space is hard to beat. And the taste. This is where strawberries truly stand out. Store-bought strawberries are often picked early and bred for durability, not flavor. But homegrown strawberries are picked at peak ripeness, eaten fresh, and bursting with sweetness. Once you've tasted them, it's very hard to go back. Another huge advantage is sustainability. Strawberry plants naturally produce runners, small offshoots that grow into new plants. That means after your initial setup, you can keep your system going almost indefinitely with little to no additional cost. And when it comes to space, strawberries are incredibly flexible. You can grow them in hanging baskets, vertical towers, stacked containers, turning even the smallest area into a high-output fruit system. Number 2. Avocados that actually produce. Now this is where things start to sound almost unbelievable, but it's absolutely real. With the right dwarf varieties, avocados can grow and produce fruit in containers. Yes, they take patience. You're not going to get fruit overnight. It usually takes a few years before a tree becomes productive. But once it does, the payoff is massive. Avocados are one of the most expensive everyday fruits. And when your tree starts producing, you're essentially creating a long-term, self-sustaining food source that can last for decades. A single mature tree can produce dozens of avocados per year. And because you're growing it in a container, you can control one of the most critical factors: drainage. Avocados hate sitting in water. So using a well-draining soil mix and avoiding overwatering is key. Once you get that right, the tree becomes surprisingly manageable. Another advantage is that many dwarf avocado varieties are self-pollinating. So you don't need multiple trees, just one healthy plant and the right care. And perhaps most importantly, container growing allows you to do something that would otherwise be impossible: grow avocados in climates that are too cold. When temperatures drop, you simply move the tree indoors and protect it. That flexibility opens the door for growers who never thought avocados were an option. Number 1. The banana strategy. And now number 1, the most surprising and arguably the most rewarding choice on this list. Bananas? Bananas aren't technically trees, but they behave like one in terms of productivity. Dwarf varieties like Dwarf Cavendish or Super Dwarf are perfectly suited for container growing, and they can produce full-sized banana bunches even in limited space. And here's what makes them stand out: speed and yield. Compared to most fruit plants, bananas produce relatively quickly. Within 18 months to 2 years, you can go from planting to harvesting a full bunch. And that bunch can contain dozens of bananas. It's not just productive, it's dramatic. Harvesting your own bananas is a completely different experience from any other fruit. There's something incredibly satisfying about cutting down a full bunch that you grew yourself. Bananas thrive in containers because you can give them exactly what they need: rich soil, consistent moisture, and warmth. And just like with avocados, you can move them indoors during colder months to protect them. But here's the real bonus: propagation. After a banana plant, fruit's the main stem dies, but it produces new shoots called pups. These can be separated and replanted, giving you new banana plants for free. You can expand your setup share with others, or even sell them. That turns one plant into an ongoing system. Bonus: The secret that changes everything now. Here's the tip that ties everything together, and almost nobody talks about it: mulch. Adding a layer of mulch like wood chips or straw on top of your container soil can dramatically improve your results. First, it helps regulate soil temperature. Your roots stay cooler in summer and warmer in colder conditions. Second, it retains moisture. That means less frequent watering and less stress on your plants. Third, it slowly breaks down and adds organic matter back into the soil, improving long-term health. It's simple, low-cost, and incredibly effective. Closing. So there you have it. 10 powerful fruit-growing options that prove you don't need a large garden to produce your own food. Whether you have a small balcony or a spacious patio container, growing gives you flexibility, control, and real results. Now, I'm curious, if you had to choose just one, which fruit would you start with first? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more ways to grow smarter, save money, and produce your own food at home.